Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the TSG Bitecast. I'm your host, Steve Tambusoff, and I hope everyone's going great. So in this episode, I'm sitting down with good mate, Joe Prothero, who is one of the co-founders of the MTB Femme Women's Riding Weekend. She is her and another cool mate, Xena Pahina, are bringing the event back, and it's literally this weekend. So Joe came down the hill and we sat in the studio over a beer and chatted about the history of mountain bike de femme, her history, and why she wanted to bring it back. It's going to be a huge weekend. A lot of tickets were sold, and enjoy this episode because not only is Joe a good mate and it was great to just sit down and have a catch up, she's really got some big plans for this for the future. So if you want to follow all the adventures over the weekend, or if you're on your way up to Falls, which is the whole aim of this episode, and you're listening to it, I hope this gets you stoked. So you can check out All Ride MTB on Instagram. Check that out and give them a follow, man. Really get behind this because this hopefully will be going elsewhere than just Falls Creek. So get onto that, and also follow me at the TSG Bitecast, and you'll see our beautiful faces as always on the YouTubes at That Stoked Guy. So enjoy the episode, guys, and I look forward to catching everyone on the weekend up at the Femme. I'll be floating around recording. Come and say hello. Tell me about your riding experience. Tell me some funny shit, and we'll all have a beer at the end. So enjoy the episode, guys. Have fun. Let's get into this now. We've had our hour-long catch-up. All right, so first of all, because we're already rolling, we're not even going to do an intro or anything. We're just going to get into it. So first of all, because this is mostly a history podcast anyway, and about bikes, and you're from merry old England, so we're going to talk about your background first. So tell us.
Okay.
How did you end up over here?
So very different industry. So I worked for a synthetic grass industry in the UK called Tiger Turf.
No way.
Yeah, I was in the industry prior with a Dutch manufacturer, and then a New Zealand business set up a factory in Kidderminster in the UK, and used a lot of the old carpet machinery to set up the synthetic grass manufacturing. So I worked for them in the UK. I was in that industry for 10 plus years, and it was owned by a Kiwi company. So I decided after taking a sabbatical and doing a ski season in Chamonix that maybe I didn't want to live in the UK anymore. So put my hand up for a bit of a transfer and headed over to Auckland for 12 months as a marketing coordinator.
Yeah, marketing turf.
Yes.
like turf for like soccer fields and shit, or was it just like?
Yeah, so predominantly they were into bowling greens, tennis courts, but then more recently into soccer fields and landscape grass.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I probably moved to New Zealand in 2005, and I was there for 12 months. But the biggest part of the business was in Australia. So I got a transfer a year later from New Zealand to Australia as the marketing manager. And that was the time of the drought. So a lot of people were then looking at synthetic grass for landscaping purposes.
Right.
So yeah, the business went from probably 5 million to 50 million within probably a 5-year period.
Jeez.
Yeah, so real big growth period for the business. And then the owners, who were Kiwis, decided that they were going to sell. So they sold, I think, in probably 2009. And then the business just declined a little bit. It was bought by Ten Carter, who's a Dutch synthetic grass manufacturer. So yeah, they sold, and the business went through probably 7 rounds of redundancies. I had no marketing money, so on the 8th round, I put my hand up and said, I think you probably need to make me redundant. So, but I was really grateful. I got my permanent residency through that channel. So they sponsored me, they paid all the associated fees. So
right, yeah. On. That's crazy. I've known you for years and didn't know you were a synthetic grass lady.
Yes.
So how did you end up at like Falls? Did you were you just skiing up there and just hanging out, or did you just sort of?
No, I've got a confession. I didn't know you could ski in Australia.
Oh shit! Don't worry, that's not really a confession because a lot of people think that as well.
Yeah, so after leaving Tiger Turf, I did a bit of contracting for a while with Bowls Australia, and was applying for jobs, but I was English person, no marketing degree, so I was kind of, lowest candidate in the pool of all the jobs.
Yeah.
Applying for jobs every day, getting a bit soul destroyed. But then this job popped up for Falls Creek, so I just went, oh, what the hell? And then within probably 2 hours, got a call from the recruiter saying, do you want to meet? And I was like, yes, I do. So they had started the recruitment process and thought they'd got their ideal candidate, but decided to go back to market again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So with my experience of living and working in Chamonix for a while, marketing, they were looking for probably a candidate that didn't probably have government experience, just so you could see it through a different lens.
Yeah.
So yeah, long story short, I was then the successful candidate.
What year was that, roughly?
2012.
Holy shit, that was like the year we started building trails there. I thought you were there like way longer than that.
No, and that was what really interested me about the job. Obviously, I wanted the job because I love the snow, but I also then saw the opportunity of the diversification in the summer season.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like, okay, we've got this great resort in winter, but this is this untapped market. What can we do with it in summer?
Absolutely. It was definitely in its like sort of growth period at that point. Mountain biking it was starting to take off, world trail, dirt art, trailscapes. They were all pushing that whole commercial sort of flow trail sort of design. And it's taken off now. Look at it now. It's bonkers in Australia.
Yeah. And we could really see Mount Buller led by example. So we could kind of see what the opportunity was there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So, and then what was your whole role? I know what your role at Falls Creek was because I worked with you for years, but so tell us, what was pretty much your role and what was your vision for Falls Creek?
Yeah, so the role was Director of Marketing and Communications. So that encompasses a lot. So managing all of the marketing activity across winter in conjunction with the lift company being the biggest driver and the biggest employer on the mountain. But we tried to work hand in glove with them to make sure that the messaging was the same for the entire mountain. I was responsible for the resort entry as well. So employing all of the seasonal resort entry staff, they all fell under my portfolio and all the visitor information servicing. So yeah, that's actually quite a big chunk of the role. Making sure that guests had a really great experience across all the businesses that they came to touch with. So we then started to look at, okay, well, how do we get into that mountain bike space? What's our unique point of difference? And how can we add events to the calendar to complement the existing events? So Peaks Challenge was already there, but how do we start to introduce some mountain bike events? And really, how could we encourage the stakeholders of the resort to consider opening outside of the winter period? Because winter was their cash cow.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, it took a lot of persuading to go, actually, here's a market here that you haven't tapped into before. Yes, it's probably not going to yield the same probably profit margins for them. But what happens if you have a really bad winter season? And winter can be 2 months, at best 4 months.
Yeah.
So we were like, even with an interseason of a month either side of winter, you've still got 8 months of the year that they can sell beds and open their cafes and restaurants and bars.
Absolutely. We're not at like a massive level now, but it's certainly grown a lot over the years. You've got a lot of places that are staying open most of summer. You look at places like Alpine Peppers, places like that are still staying open all season. Alpha's getting heaps of beds, and it's just like all these other places staying open year round. There's more permanent residents as well, considering when when I was there in 2012 starting to build trails, it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
And now it's like this thriving little community going, like there's always just people everywhere. It's awesome.
There used to be some days in probably my first year or two when even I couldn't get a coffee. So for me, that was unacceptable. But then even more unacceptable if someone had made the trip to go to Falls Creek and there weren't services to support it. So it was really a big part of my role with stakeholder engagement in trying to bring them on the journey of how do we bring the resort to life in the summer season.
Yeah, and it's definitely working. Like, I think I don't like saying it too much, but like mountain biking took off too much all at once because it just spread so, and it still is now, but like Falls Creek and Buller just sort of got left behind all of a sudden because it was just so hard to keep up with everything, especially when I'm partly responsible for Tasmania. So it's just like, and Tasmania just suddenly took off, and now that's the destination. I'm going next week, and I'm excited like a little kid every time I say it, like jittery about it. But I totally understand that. And like we're pushing now with new trails coming along, and I think the high country's again in its next phase to boost again. So I think all the groundwork that you guys lay down as well, especially with all our racing events and stuff that Zena can't be here today at all, but we'll chat with her later. But all our early events, like the early enduros, they were very small and no one really knew what we were doing. It was just like, but I mean, back then enduro was still a new thing, like 2014, 15, and I remember racing the first Falls Enduro. And it was still a bunch of fun. And it's just grown from there. Like this year's was bonkers. Like easily the biggest one and the best one we've ever had. Like there was no snow, which was awesome. And it was sunny all weekend. It rained on the Tuesday evening, so the trails were sweet. And our urban stage like ran awesome, and it was fast and fun and huge crowds. And I think we're building it. We've built over the years this culture that you guys built back in the early days, and we're now taking it on, and myself and Stan and our new events crew, we're pushing it forwards,
It was really hard back in those early days. Like I knocked on a lot of doors saying, please bring your event to Falls Creek. We just wanted to have a showcase what the resort was all about. And there was lots of knockbacks. And it was really nice towards the end of my tenure in the directorship role where people were coming to knock on our door because I think we'd proven ourselves a little bit.
That's it.
And they knew what we had to offer and knew that we were open to hosting events and trying to think out the box a little bit, really.
Exactly. And that was going to be my next point, with our urban stage. It was something we wanted to do for years. We couldn't get off the ground early because stakeholders weren't really interested in it. And when Nick and I went to the table and said last year, can we do an urban stage? And she was just like, good luck. So we tried and everyone just went, and we just like, we're in. We're doing this every year now forever. And next year I want to do 2 urban stages on one day to make it. So if we want to go to EWS qualifier again, we have to run 2 stages minimum on the Saturday. So I went 2 urban stages.
Awesome.
They all finish at the same spot. Like you finish, you ride back up to your second stage. And
that's how Chaos was born.
Bingo. Because
we were like, okay, how do we kind of link the winter season and the summer season, because we're so well known in winter. But so many people in winter, I'd be on a chairlift and they'd say, I wonder what it's like in summer. And I'm like, it's as beautiful in summer, just different. So it's like, okay, well, how do we link that customer base that we've already got and get them to consider us for a summer holiday? So thankfully we had the new CEO, Stuart Smythe, and we kind of tapped him on the shoulder and said, we've got this idea. What do you think? And he was like, okay, why not? The insurance company were a little bit skeptical when we showed them the video of Mega Avalanche in outdoors. And they were like, you want to do what?
Ours is smaller though.
You want to put bikes on the snow and they want to race? And we said, yes. So that was, I think, it was a great opportunity to go, we've got a winter customer. How do we create that customer to be an all year round customer?
And again, it's grown into, we'll get another one again, hopefully, but it's like, it grew. I raced 2 of them and it's the funnest shit around. Like it's so much fun. You ride in the morning, you drink your beer by 11. Like it's the best.
And I was lucky up my last year, 2019, I decided I was going to ride it
that's
too.
Right.
I was at the back of the pack, so I was a bit of a nervous Nancy, but I got down the bottom, no stacks, intact, so I was pretty happy with that.
I've crashed in every single one I've raced. Had big ones and still managed to finish, but then you just drink the pain away. So I suppose we'll go on to the next thing now. So talking about events, how did Mountain Bike to Femme actually sort of come about? What was the whole background with that?
So I'm thinking it was probably around about 2017. Xena and I were doing a skills clinic in Mount Beauty with Indy Boa from Fastline Bike Academy. Group of ladies that were all from the region, Bright, Yakandanda, Albury Wodonga, and we kind of said to them, have you ridden at Falls Creek? And they were all quite nervous. because they'd ridden, trails in the valley, but never anything in alpine. And they were quite concerned that it would be too technical, too rocky. So Xena and I brainstormed and said, well, why don't we just do a social ride for women? But yeah, that would work. And it literally started as a Facebook event. And we threw it out there thinking we might get 20 women, and we got 75 women.
Yeah, awesome.
So, and it was no ticket. It was just rock up. And I think it was probably the first time in the history of Falls Creek Operation Crew we had guys volunteering to work that weekend, because there were going to be 70 plus chicks on the mountain.
Makes sense. That's why I'm helping you this weekend after all these years.
So it was literally really all about just getting women on the trails at Falls Creek confidently, showing them that they can ride there.
Yeah.
And what we saw and experienced that weekend was men and women ride very differently. Women are quite nervous. They want to know that they can ride the trail. They're worried about they're going to hold someone up.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fall off, and they're not going to be able to take the kids to school on Monday. So there was all these fears that kept coming to the surface, and probably Xena's job and my job and all the other guys was instilling confidence in women.
Yeah.
And if it meant getting off in a particular part of the trail and going, right, let's walk this bit, and then we'll show you which line to take, and then seeing the women actually then do it and go, oh, wow, oh, that was easy.
Mm-hmm.
And really just confidence building.
Yeah.
So that's when we said, okay, that was a real great success. How do we then commercialize this and have it as an annual event on the calendar? And Man and Bike to Femme was born.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And
so
it's happened for a couple, and then unfortunately the world's gone crazy. So
it did.
And but now we're back.
Yes.
So now that it's back and you and Xena are bringing it back, what is the plan for us? So this weekend we've got how many tickets did you end up selling for the weekend?
Yeah, so we've sold over 100.
That's awesome.
So that's across the 3 ticket options, and then probably another 10, 15 tickets where people have just bought skills clinics and social skills clinics or the picnic ride.
Yep.
So there's anything from someone $15 social ride, so you can just come along, get a free coffee, join in any of the rides from beginner, never ridden a man and bike trail before, all the way through intermediate and then advanced. So we'll divide people into different groups. There'll only be 12 women in a group, and there'll be 2 guides in that group.
Perfect. And
they will take them on the trail suited to that riding ability. And the group can stop, they can talk about if anybody's concerned about a particular rock feature or anything on the trail. And it's just all about being relaxed environment and no pressure. Like I've ridden with a lot of guys and I feel like I'm trying to keep up the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I ask for a bit of advice and get told just to ride hard and faster, which doesn't
no, it doesn't work that
way.
Doesn't
upskill me.
No.
Yeah. So there'll be people across the weekend. There are guided rides in the morning. We'll break for lunch across the various venues. Then there'll be guided rides in the afternoon. But in conjunction with that, Indy from Fastline Bike Academy is offering skill sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So a 3-hour session in the morning or a 3-hour session in the afternoon.
Yep.
Again, divided up into your riding ability. And we've asked the ladies to self-rate themselves.
Yep.
So they're confident in where they are. People can move up or down through those groups if they feel that they need to. Then we have a happy hour with Blue Dirt at 2:00. They're offering a gin spritz cocktail. Yeah, we might find a few women not back on the bike in the afternoon, but
me back on the bike in the afternoon. It's like espresso martinis at ignition.
Yeah.
Everything gets a little blurry after the third one.
Yeah. And then we have Cycle Station doing a maintenance workshop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they're coming up and just giving women a few tips on how to keep your bike working. Because I think I know from my own experience, I feel a bit kind of out of my depth sometimes. Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to, change a tire, or, why is that part of my bike squeaking? So yeah, kind of 101
That's really cool
bike
idea.
Maintenance. Yeah. And then Jules from Ski Fit Yoga is going to be doing a yoga class at 5:00.
Well, at the end of the day, if you haven't had too many gin spritzers, or yoga might be fun after a few gin spritzers, who knows?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've obviously got a fair few people involved, with Cycle Station, Indy, as well. He's a really good bike coach, her history with racing herself and her partner, plus the kids she's brought up into racing, is like, I think she's pretty integral to our area for getting people into riding. She's very stern and she's very good at what she does. So no, that's really cool. Is there anyone else that's getting involved?
We've got Emma from Mobile Osteo that's actually going to be there as a mobile pop-up. So if anybody's got any aches or pains or needs any rehab exercises, she's going to be on hand to sort those out as well.
Cool.
Emma from Lily Pelly down in Mount Beauty is offering massages too. So yeah, people can just, add on extras as they see fit. Saturday evening, we'll have a bit of a meal together at the Frying Pan.
Yep.
And then on Sunday morning, we have a picnic ride leaving at 10. And we're heading to Edmondson's Hut in the National Park.
Nice.
So, and then Lisa Logan from Diana Lodge is providing a picnic lunch.
And that is good stuff, because I've eaten at Diana many times, and we've all eaten her food at Blue Dirt. Whether you like it or not, you have eaten their muffins before, and they are awesome. So without even realizing it, that's so cool. So, so next thing I want to talk about, now we've sort of covered the whole program for the weekend. You've started up an Instagram called All Right MTB. What's the whole go with that? What are your plans? I know you're up to something.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about that and tell us about what your plans are with that?
Yeah. So after being in corporate for the majority of my life, decided to take a bit of a step back and reassess lifestyle. And I love to ride now. I learned the hard way. But time on my bike for me is my meditation. I just love it. So with the support of my partner, Dave, he was like, it's your turn to do what you want to do now. So I was like, okay, I think it needs to be something in the riding space. And that's when I approached Falls Creek to say, do you need someone to run Femme for you? And they were like, yes, they prefer that model. They prefer a contractor to come in. So that's where that idea spawned from. But my plan would be is to take the event to other destinations as well.
Which was awesome.
So whether it's under the Mountain Bike Femme brand or not, that's still to be determined. But I'd love to be able to take it and cherry pick which destinations I think would be a really good fit for that type of event. Probably still concentrating mainly on those female riders. And then another side of the business, guiding and coaching.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah, I'm booked in to do my 3-day PMBIA in Canberra in July.
Nice.
Yeah. So total change from me from being, head of marketing, responsible for big teams. So, but it feels right now for me.
Awesome. I'm stoked you're doing that stuff. That's really rad. Yeah, and Dave's, he's a supportive dude. So he'll be stoked just to be able to ride more bikes anyway. Just chill out and do fun shit.
Yeah, so he can work from himself. So we're pretty flexible. He's been working whilst we've been traveling here. And it just gives us flexibility to pick where we want to go next.
Yeah, well, look, women's events are really growing in Australia, all around the world in general. There's heaps going on now. We've got Catherine Visser coming up as well, and she's been running her own down in Red Hill, which hopefully some of the people who hear this podcast that are coming up this weekend have also attended her event, In Search of Stoke, which is awesome. I was down there last year recording, and if you want to hear something about that, I actually did an episode, so go back through the list. When I was down there hanging out with her and the crew, and I think it's growing so quick now. You look in the bigger space around the world with free ride and all this stuff. There's Red Bull supporting a lot of women riding, and they're all hitting huge freaking jumps now. And it's crazy. It's finally growing where it's in a space where it should have been 10 years ago. And we're finally getting there now. And I think I think events like this are going to be pretty killer in the future. I've always dreamed about at these women's events to have especially for the Femme, this is just my personal take, is to have like a 3-stage mini beginners enduro. So I can get women confidence to give racing a go, because enduro women's is growing and all the girls always help each other out. But I'd love to see at women's events like this that they can have a go and realize that they can go race and give racing a go, because they realize that they've got more potential than they actually think.
Because women always undersell themselves.
Yes.
They really do. And I think you're right, there's still there's a big gap between, getting confident out on the bike to thinking that you can participate in an event. So yeah, there's definitely a link there missing.
Absolutely.
I think we can help women with.
Yeah, and it's growing. Again, Catherine Visser did it with her enduro. So 100 women came and raced, and most of them I spoke to had never raced before.
Yeah,
never even thought about it, or maybe raced a couple of XC races and were a bit of afraid of enduro.
Yeah,
and I was like, enduro can be intimidating. It's a big day on the bike, but it's not just doing loops. You're riding gnarly trails, but if you can ride trails with your friends, that's all you're really doing. You're just getting timed.
Yeah.
You might win some beer at the end.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I remember I did one of the first enduros at Falls too. And I was still I'm riding a hardtail, still pretty beginnerish.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just that camaraderie, for me, that's probably what kind of really sucked me into the sport.
Yep.
Was that people were really supportive, inclusive, and encouraging that you were out there giving it a go. It didn't matter what your time was.
No. Well, my first ever race was at that Falls one, that first one we ever did. I'd never done one before. And then the boys like, come on, you got to at least race one here. And so I raced in sport, and then I was winning for most of the day. Then they all called me a sandbagger. And then I crashed on the last stage, had a hugie on what's now known as Big Fella, back when it used to just be the go track, home and away trail, whatever that walking track was. And I remember talking to Zena back in the early days and going, yeah, you got to race that. Back in my world, and she's like, why? I go, because it's awesome. It's what we ride. And then I rode it, and then I crashed on it and came fifth. So I got out of being called a sandbag, but I missed out on the one podium I probably would ever have won in my life.
The only thing in women, sometimes when you think you might podium just because the numbers are low, they then combine the categories, and you're like, damn
it. Now I've got to work hard for this. Like I said, racing's growing. Our enduro this year sold out so fast, and our waiting list was massive. Beauty sold out in half an hour yesterday.
Wowzers. It's
crazy. All the downhills are selling out now. Unfortunately, XCO is not doing so well, but enduro is killing it. But it's a shame, but it's just the way of the world. But enduro, enduro is killing it, and I'm super stoked now that we can have sold out enduros every year. We don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And all I want to do now is just make it bigger and better every year with something new, something fresh, something crazy every year,
Yeah, and that's what it does. It keeps people coming back.
Yeah.
We've got a contract with Resort Management to run to Femme for 3 years, so that's great.
Perfect.
So we can get a heap of feedback from this year as well, and then consider what we add differently. Could be a introduction to racing component next year.
That'd be awesome. I'll definitely be around for that. All right, so we've gone through pretty much everything. So the future of the Femme, you got a 3-year contract. You're planning to maybe think about taking it around to other places. I mean, there's so many good bike parks that this sort of thing will happen at.
So we'll be heading back up to Queensland mid-April. So I've got a site visit up at Hidden Vale.
Oh, right.
So, and that would be a very different style of Femme.
Yeah.
Because they're attached to the Spices hotel brand.
Yeah.
So it'd probably be more of a high-end kind of women's retreat, smaller numbers.
Yeah.
But I've ridden there before, and I think just that connection between the luxury and the riding could be a nice kind of boutique-y.
Yeah, I worked on a bunch of those trails. Nathan Putt and I built Trailer Trash, and Ryan built the one, I think it's Nightfall or something, is above it. They're 2 big descending trails. Yeah, we built all that stuff. Yeah, it's a cool place.
Yeah, they're actually, they've just started the development for the Bubbling Springs campsite.
Right, finally.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, right. It's been on the cards for a lot of years.
Yeah, so I think they're looking at opening that in September this year.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Hidden Vale will be a good spot for an event like this, I think, especially for Queensland.
So kind of open to if anybody's, listening and wants to bring an event of that style to their park or their destination, I'd love to chat and see whether it's a good fit.
Yep, cool. So getting into that then, where can people find or contact you for information, and where can they follow along with the Femme's activities?
Yep, so there's a Mountain Bike to Femme Facebook event, or also just follow All Ride MTB on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
Or my email address is joe@allride.com.au.
Bingo, and I'll put all that in the show description. You can find me at the TSG Bikecast on Instagram and follow all my wacky adventures, and you'll see our beautiful faces on YouTube. Yeah, the camera's there. On YouTube on That Stoked Guy. And so I'm going to be floating around all weekend. So if anyone's listening on their drive up to Falls Creek, you'll see the one guy running around, probably covered in mud, riding bikes with a big smile on his face with cameras and GoPros and all sorts of shit. Come over and say hello. Tell me about how your weekend's going. And I'm going to put an episode together to hopefully share the experience around and get more people stoked on bikes and get more women attending these events. So yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Steve.
We're going to have a fun weekend.
We are.
We're going to drink
great.
beers and ride bikes, and it's going to be rad.
Awesome.
And we're done.
Yay.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave everyone a bit of an insight as to the history of not only just Mountain Bike to Femme, but Falls Creek Mountain Bike Park in general. This crew really put in the hard yards early to let us have these awesome events that we have now, like selling out enduros and having XEO and Chaos and all the inter-school racing that we do. This crew, Zena and Joe, were a massive integral part of why we have a race culture and a cool riding culture at Falls Creek, you know. So yeah, big ups to them. I really hope to see you all out on the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to come and say hello to me. I'll be floating around and riding and helping out around the place. So come say good day. Tell me about your experiences. And of course, high five and hug the shit out of Joe and Xena and all the volunteers and all the people that are coming up to help. So all right, MTB on Instagram, give them a follow. Even if you're not coming, just give them a follow just to support this group of people who are going to do some cool things in the future. Follow me at the TSG Bikecast on Instagram, and you see mine and Joe's is more beautiful than mine, our faces on the YouTubes at That Stoke Guy. And as always, I love you all, and I'll see you out in the trails.